COVID year. Today we want to acknowledge your service. As we light a candle, we will have a moment of silence after each thought for you to remember the guests or the people that you served.
Tell me, when did you get involved here?
It was in April. Actually, I when they opened up, I went through the training and I became here. I got tapped by Chris Wheatley, Pastor Chris, who's the director of spiritual care for Press Homes, and he called and he said, you can say no, but I'd like you to go to Interlude. They're going to open up the COVID unit. And I said, give me 24 hours to pray on it. And I knew it was the right thing. So I said yes.
How did you sense that calling?
How do you sense any kind of calling? You just know Scripture talks about a peace that passes all understanding. And that's how it felt. It just felt right. It felt like the right place for me to be at that time. And it was a great experience. The team here was so good, and I mean, we really had to collaborate in order to provide for care, and I felt like I was part of something, and so it was just a wonderful experience.
Are you able to summarize what a typical day might have looked like in the past for you?
Oh, well, a typical day here was coming in, and I would get here. I work 10, most days I work 10 to 4, and I would get in and I would talk to Carol, or I talked to different people to see, what had happened over the night and what I need, where I was needed. And then you put on the PPE, which you had to put on, I love it, you had to take off your clothes and you had to put on scrubs, and then you put on the PPE that was hotter than you ever can imagine, and you walk upstairs, and then I just go start visiting people. And usually they ask people, do you want a chaplain to visit? But I was always from the school that I just always, at least come in and say hi and introduce myself and let people know that I'm around. And nobody ever turned me down. Nobody ever turned me down. I had some of the most wonderful visits with people, and part of it was just providing them with hope and human touch that said, we're going to do what we can. And then it was FaceTime. I would go back down at lunchtime, and then I would get all the messages from families who wanted FaceTime with their loved ones, and I had the iPad tablet, and so I was the FaceTime scheduler and stuff. And then afterwards, I would go and I'd call all the families, and I'd say, I saw I saw so-and-so, and they were doing okay, or what can you tell me about them so I can help them, have hope, or just lots of different challenges. And so I was always calling families and trying to provide spiritual support for them too.
So can you think of one among many memorable moments that you might like to share with us?
Well, there was one person from South Minneapolis, and I can't say names and stuff,
sure.
but she reminded me of my mom, and so I would, and she was having a tough time because how the COVID affected her was her taste and her smell, but also she had been kind of in charge of her own meds. She was living in her own household, and now all of a sudden she was confused and she didn't know where she was, and she couldn't figure out what was happening to her. And so I would go down and I'd help her find her story, because I had talked to her daughter, and her daughter had told me about her and what she had done in her life and all of those things, so I could help her remember her story. And the more she recovered, the more, the more pieces she could put together, and I could help thread that needle so that she could come to her center. And she loved praying, and the more I could help her come to her center, the better she became. And then she would be cooperative with therapies and stuff, and she eventually did graduate and could go home and stuff. But I think that was the big piece, is trying to help her come to her story. And that's what happens when you talk to families, because they can give you pieces, and then those words kind of help them attach in their brain, and then they can go, oh yeah, I remember this and stuff. The other thing was when the dementia patients came, and we had one lady who was yelling out and everything, but I work with dementia patients all the time in hospice. And so I got my iPad and I put a playlist together, and she would sit with me for hours listening to music and just singing at the top of her lungs, and it helped calm her and helped bring her again back down, so then people could work with her. So those are some of the things that that I think about, and the people I think about. But the staff here was so good and so attentive. It just blessed my heart to know that they were in it to really make a difference, and they did.
I had overheard Dwayne saying that you had said to him possibly that this has changed you forever. Is that true?
Yeah, in a sense. I'm a community person. I'm a pastor. I love being in community. I love working in community. And it's not that hospice isn't community, but you're basically kind of out there on your own. And this was an experience of working with people at patient-centered care. And I really, really loved the community and talking to the social workers and really triaging what can best help this person and this family, and feeling like you're part of something that's bigger than yourself.